Okay, folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am very, very pleased to introduce a woman to you today that I'm really excited to talk to. She is an LA-based director and writer, and made the most amazing feature film that I watched recently. So amazing, it compelled me to contact her on Instagram and invite her to have this chat. She said yes, which is great. We'll talk more about that feature film and her whole career, but for now, please welcome Lauren Fash. Hi, Lauren, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Now, first off the bat, I must say to you all that you do prefer to be called Fash, so that's what we're going to call you throughout the interview. That's right, yeah?
Yeah. I played sports growing up, and so people started calling me by my last name when I was, I don't even know, 7 or 8, and it's just kind of always stuck.
I get it as well, actually. Loads of my mates call me Bowden for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, let's go right back to the beginning then, Fash. From a young age, was film always the thing for you?
No, not at all. Like I said, I played sports growing up. I wasn't, I think there are some directors and who kind of came out of the womb with a camera. That was not me at all. I never really thought of film as a potential career. I was focused on sports, and that was kind of, I was going to be a professional softball player, even though it wasn't really an option, but I feel like when you're a kid, logic really rarely comes into play.
Never.
But my father passed away when I was in high school, when I was 17, and I just quit all sports. I lost my passion and my nerve. So it was kind of like a pivot in life. That was kind of a catalyst for me to move to California when I was young. I think I was 20 or 21. And it wasn't until I was in college that I was setting up my schedule, and my counselor was like, you need to fill this elective. What about this film class? And I remember, like, film, you can study that? That's fun. And we just shot on these Super 8 cameras.
Yeah.
And it was my first time ever, doing anything in that realm. And so I spent the whole semester shooting trains and really fell in love with that process of kind of, loading the camera and seeing the dailies. And then I ended up getting a job as a production assistant and just kind of fell into I was just like, what is this? And eventually made my way to film school.
That's incredible. And you went to USC, didn't you? The University of Southern California. Do you feel through the training that you did there that you kind of got equipped with the tools that you needed to sort of head out into the film world?
Absolutely. It's interesting. Like, you'll hear filmmakers who say, film school is a waste of money. Don't waste your time. And I got to say, I think it's absolutely the case. You do not have to go to film school. Like, it's not a prerequisite for a career or to be talented. That it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And it is very expensive, and there are some, there's some negatives to it. But for me, I absolutely needed that time. I was a bit wild, so like just the discipline of it was necessary, and it also, you go and you're in this world where you're allowed to fuck up. You can make mistakes, and you can try things, and there's not huge stakes, right? The only thing is, like, maybe your classmates don't respond or whatever. And so it allows you to appreciate and study the art form and the history of cinema. And I really loved that part of it, and USC is very competitive, which was also great. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, for me, it was wonderful. I can't say, anything bad about it. And I think that for some people like me who needed that discipline and that structure, to really, again, like, I wasn't growing up making short films and doing that stuff. This was my first time really getting behind a camera, working with actors, all of it. So yeah.
I completely understand what you mean, because I went to drama school in London. I trained as an actor, and I, like you, was fun to be around when I was younger, and I needed bringing in a bit. I needed that discipline. I needed that training. I needed to know how to focus on something, and drama school definitely did that. And it taught me, most of all, I think, and I think my friends will laugh as soon as I say this, how to be on time for everything. Because I'm now. But you know, if you were 5 minutes late, you were thrown out for the day. So you know, you got that discipline right down from the start, and I really needed that. But I agree with you. I don't think it's necessary to go to drama school either. I don't think it's a sort of prerequisite. I just think it's, you know, within yourself whether or not you need that training and that discipline, and I did as much as you did as well. So you touched on short films there. You've made quite a few short films now, haven't you? But the one I wanted to talk about was Quiet, because this seems to have been quite a big one for you. It went to a lot of festivals, and it's actually based on a true story. Is this right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration? Because the story is fascinating, and I think one that a lot of people resonate with.
Yeah, so Quiet I did right after I graduated film school. It was my first kind of independent, short. And it was based on, I read a New York Times article about a woman named Janice Langdon. And essentially, she was denied the right to say goodbye to her partner in a hospital in Miami. And it was before gay marriage was legalized. I mean, this was years ago. I can't tell you the exact date. But that really kind of, that spark of my God, can you imagine being there and being, she was in the hospital in the waiting room, and they wouldn't allow her to say goodbye because she wasn't related, right? Like there was no legal connection. Yeah. And so for me, that was a moment of man, we've got to change this. This is fucked, sorry, I have a horrible mouth. But so
I'm from Portsmouth in the UK. Okay. Don't worry about that.
But anyway, so yeah, that was kind of the impetus and the inspiration for that story, was just, let's show this. Let's show how twisted this is. I mean, can you imagine being in that situation? And I think I'm really interested in stories like that, where you put yourself in the center of something and you go, well, what would I have done, or how this, and I think that's, I don't know, it just was so clear that this is why we needed to legalize gay, like this is the reason, I mean, you can argue all you want about the religious side of, if you don't believe in a woman and a woman and a man and a man. I grew up in that world. I know the arguments against it. But at the end of the day, like, we're human beings, and this was just not acceptable. This is just a horrible way to treat someone at the end of their life, and for their family, because there were kids, the kids were there, so it was, that's kind of how that came about. And I got in touch with Janice, and she was really kind of touched by it, and ended up meeting her. And so it's a fictional story, but based around what happened to her. And
I think it happens to a lot of people. I think whether you're in a gay relationship or not, it's I mean, I've got friends that have been in hospital with their partners, and they're not allowed to know what's going on because they're not blood family, or they're not the spouse. And it's like, that's wrong. You don't know what the situation, someone might not talk to their family anymore, or, they might actually want the partner to be the person. And I just think it's wrong. I don't know how it works in America, but here that is still a thing. You still can't know what's going on with your loved one unless you are married or your immediate family.
Yeah, I mean, well, now that we have, I don't know specific, now we have gay marriage, it's legalized across the country. So if you are married, but getting down to the nitty gritty, like, what if you're not legally married? I don't really know. I mean, I know, Janice got the Presidential Medal of Freedom for that situation. So Obama, really highlighted that story, and that was what they kind of used that when they started really kind of being more outspoken about legalizing it in the country. So it's a precarious situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But you had quite a lot of success with Quiet, didn't you? It went to quite a few festivals, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I did. It's like 35.
Yeah, it's great. Amazing.
Oh yeah, it was fun. It was a good experience. It was long. It was a long short. Maybe a little too long. But again, that I don't remember the shooting schedule, but just being behind the camera with a professional crew for the first time, and doing that, script to screen, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm about to have that experience myself because one of my short films that I'm going to be directing as well.
I love
My
it.
first one, so I'm really excited about it. It's a bit sick because I'm a bit sick, but
Yeah.
it's set in an abandoned theme park, and obviously I'm quite influenced by David Lynch, so it's a bit Lynchian as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very excited, but I love the whole experience from sort of page to stage, as it were. So keeping on with short films, I mean, a lot of filmmakers do tend to do short films first, don't they, before they sort of move on to features. Do you think that's a really good sort of path to sort of go down?
I do. I do. I think that, you know, just in the progression of storytelling, you know, you start out with a short film has lower stakes. You know, it's and it's an opportunity for you as a director to kind of take risks, but also figure out, you know, you've got to have steady tone, like how to convey tone throughout your story. And you know, the thing that people don't talk about, like in short films, you still have to tell a complete story. Well, that's really hard to do in 10 to 20 minutes, 30, if you go on that one. But that's the goal, right? Like that's the challenge. Okay, now,
still got to have that structure to it.
Yeah, and I think that it's wonderful because it really forces you to think outside of the box and like, how do we do this and make it tight and feel, you know, fulfilling by the end. And so I think it's wonderful in that sense. And again, like the only way to gain experience is simply by doing it, getting behind the camera, and you need it. You can't, I mean, you know, there are some people who go out there, there's like the Sam Mendes of the world who go out and they do, you know, American Beauty is their, but you know, Sam spent years directing theater. So he had a lot of experience directing actors, you know, professionally, but I think for the most part, for, you know, I can't recommend short films enough. And again, this is why film school is wonderful, because we did so many, like, you know, that was your project, go make a short film. And so,
sorry.
Yeah. No, go.
I was going to say, it feels like short films actually have become, they've had a bit of a resurgence. They've become a lot more respected in the last few years. I mean, I personally think short films are really important to the industry. Do you feel that way as well? I'm guessing you slightly do from what you're sort of saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a great way to kind of mine talent and to see who's kind of up and coming, you know. Yeah, and they are very challenging. I don't think people give them enough credit in that sense, right? Like they're not respected as much. Like I can't tell you that Quiet got me. It didn't do much for my career. I'll tell you that much. It as many festivals as it played. You know, in terms of, I think that short films are really focused on the art, right? Like it's you really get to play in that world. Whereas once you get to the feature world, you're on the business side of things, because there are stakes that are much higher. You're dealing with way more money, and it's, you've got to keep your audience entertained. There are things that you simply have to do, whereas short films, it's like, let's go play and have fun and see what we can create.
I was production coordinator on a short film about 8 years ago, and it was one of the most stressful jobs I've ever done in my life. To this day, it's one of the most stressful jobs I've ever done in my life. But I loved it because I got to work with an actor that I absolutely loved. So and it was a really good experience. And the cinematographer is actually still one of my closest friends now, and we've got a little film business together as well. So I got some really good experience out of it, and I was definitely challenged by it, that's for sure, and realised that I did have a limit after all. But
films are a bit like the Wild West. Like you get out there and it's just like, let's figure this out, you know, and everybody's the fun part of that is like everybody's really on board to really just like commit and do everything they can to make it happen. When you get into the feature world, you've got the pro, you know, they're not as chill. Like
it's quite brutal in some ways, isn't it? You're on set, you're doing it, that's it, done. It's
it's a different vibe.
Definitely. So whose work inspires you, Fash?
Well, I'd say Billy Wilder is probably my favorite director. You know,
wonderful.
Career. I feel like a lot of people probably feel that way. You know, the guy was a genius in terms of blending genre. You know, I love the way that Some Like It Hot was a noir, but it was also a comedy. And then, you know, there are a lot of people. I'm a huge fan of Mike Nichols. and Anthony Minghella. But then, you know, working today, I feel like Dee Reese is so talented, and I'm really excited to kind of see what she does with her career.
Right.
But you know, Robert
seen any of her stuff. I don't think I've seen any of Dee Reese's stuff.
She kind of came out with she did a film called Pariah. It premiered at Sundance. I was there for it, and I just was like, who is this, man? And Bradford Young shot it. Bradford went on to shoot Arrival with Villeneuve, and he's insanely talented. He's a DP. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Dee is incredibly talented, and she did Mudbound. Mudbound came out not too long ago. But yeah, she's just someone to kind of look out for. I think that immensely talented. So it's really fun to watch people's careers kind of progress. I watched Craig Gillespie is a good example of that. Like I remember when Lars and the Real Girl came out, I think I was still in film school, but you know, he's developed this incredible shooting style and done so much. He does so much great work. So those guys.
I love hearing who inspires people, because often it introduces me to people I don't know about, like you just said about Dee, like I didn't know. So I love hearing about people's inspirations and things. It's great.
I feel like when people go watch movies, they look at trailers, and for me, I'm just always looking at who's directing. You know, I'm so intrigued by what people are doing, because part of the thing nobody tells you is what to direct, like which project to take on. So it's up to you to figure out like what's in the zeitgeist, what people want to see. So it's always I'm always interested by what projects people who do inspire me are choosing, you know, like what they're signing on to.
Definitely
That's how I watch a movie. I'm like, okay, who's directing it, and or I'm looking for their next project to come out.
I'm that person in the movie theater who stays right till the end of the credits. Look at like, who did this? Always. So let's talk about Femme Fatales. Now, Femme Fatales is an organization of women supporting women and striving for equality in filmmaking, and you are a member of this. And I had a good route around their website, and I was quite intrigued by them. How did you get involved with that, and how important do you feel it is that women sort of champion each other in the industry?
I got an email from them. It was another director. She emailed me and said they're looking for you, or you know, I guess they kind of do outreach, and when a film comes out, they they want to build their network. So they reached out, and I joined. I think it's a great group. And you know, I think in terms of women helping women, you know, it's really interesting if you look at the numbers. Like when I was in film school, it was 50-50. You know, it was 50% men, 50%
right.
And even in independent film, there are many female directors and writers. Mm-hmm. But once you get to those studio budgets, like what was it, 4% not long ago? I don't know if that number still is the same. I'd be surprised if it was that low still, but I know for a long time, it was 4% of studio directors were women. And what you're seeing is the drop off as the budgets go up.
Yeah.
And that's like that step of actually entrusting women with big budget movies. You know, Wonder Woman was one of the first, you know, when Patty Jenkins got that. And if you look at Patty Jenkins' career, she did Monster, which is an incredible film. Charlize Theron wins an Oscar for the lead role.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't do anything. There's a reason for that, you know, and then finally Wonder Woman comes out, and you're like, God, this brilliant filmmaker, you know, and I think that I don't know anything about anything, you know, but I know that, you know, there should have been an offer immediately for her to be in the studio world, because that's what happens with guys, you know, it's like, oh, you did this film that won Sundance, your career is about to just explode, and you're going to get, the budget is going to exponentially grow.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we really need more help, you know, and growth is seeing that, you know, seeing women entrusted with. And again, I think that it's happening. It's slow, but that's where I'm noticing like a very big discrepancy is when you look at the numbers and you look at the budgets.
Yeah.
Get to those big budgets, it's like women disappear. They're not getting the offers anymore, you know?
Do you know what? I wonder, I don't actually know what the sort of ratio is over here when it comes to sort of big budget films. I might have a little look into that and let you know, because that's quite shocking, 4%. That it really is.
Yeah. It's not a good look. but you know, I do think things are changing, slow and
Yeah,
steady, you know,
just slowly.
and
Yeah, absolutely. So we spoke a little bit about the sort of work that you look for to take on. You seem to have a focus on work that kind of changes people's lives or changes their hearts and their minds a bit as well, and try and sort of maybe educate people a little bit in certain areas. How important do you feel right now? Obviously, what the world we're living in right now is very, very interesting. How important do you feel that film is right now in this world of conflict that we're living in?
yeah, I mean, I would say that I think that film is just the most powerful tool ever created in terms of you know, allowing us to, well, I would say it's the most powerful tool to create empathy, right? Because
Yeah.
we're able to see the world from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that uh, that's insanely important. That's why it does what it does. I mean, I can't tell you how many films have impacted me so profoundly. You know, I mean, I'll never forget the first time I watched Fried Green Tomatoes, because when I was a kid, I would watch the Disney films and I was so confused. I'm like, well, am I the prince or the princess? Because I don't wear those. I'm sure as hell not wearing the dresses, like lying asleep waiting for a dude to come kiss me, you know. And but I'm not a boy, so you know. And there were tomboys. It was like we didn't. There wasn't a space for that. And so when Fried Green Tomatoes came out, I was like, oh, I'm itchy. There I am, you know. And it was like people always say representation matters, and I will say, as a little lesbian growing up in, you know, being raised in a conservative Southern Baptist environment, that was insanely important. And so, you know, that stuff, I think it does matter. And I think it's so fun to kind of see the world from new perspectives, right? It just makes us better.
Totally.
And yeah, I think it's exciting that that, you know, we're starting to kind of open up, right? Like widen the different perspectives that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think film is so important. I think the amount of reach it has is incredible, and I call it the 3 E's, which is education, entertainment, and escapism. And I love nothing more than if I've got an afternoon or something, which is rare. I'll just take myself off to the cinema and I will just sit and let myself go for 2 hours, and it's just my favorite thing to do. But I love the fact that film can educate so much as well. I just think, yeah, I think it's very powerful. I just love it. I love every aspect of it. I really do. Well, let's move on to your feature film, which I believe the original title is Through the Glass Darkly, but for some reason in the UK, maybe you can tell me why, it's called Disappearance at Lake Elrod. It's on Netflix for people that haven't seen it. Please watch it because it is brilliant. And I loved it for so many different reasons. I loved the tone of it. I loved your direction. I really loved Robin Lively in it because I let's face it, Robin Lively is the teen witch, man. She's a legend, you know. She is the teen witch. But also, you know, I'm quite connected to the Twin Peaks world because I used to run the Twin Peaks UK Festival. We were just about to invite Robin to come to the festival in 2020, and then COVID hit. So unfortunately, we never got to invite her. But I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Robin in a role like this before. It's a very gritty, dark role, and she's phenomenal. She's incredible in it. And so I kind of wanted to have a chat with you about how that came about, because you are the co-writer as well. Why Robin, for a start? Did you know sort of Robin from the beginning? And also, yeah, I guess kind of like your well, let's start there. Let's start with why Robin and where the idea for it came from with the writing, and then I'll move on to the next part of that question.
Yeah. No, I didn't know Robin. I had never seen Teen Witch. Apparently, I was living under a rock. I don't know where it was. I know, but I have to tell you, it was the best thing that I wasn't familiar with her and her work, because especially Robin as a human, and she's lovely. This is gonna make sense in a second, but when I saw Robin, so. I had cast every role in the movie except the lead. I was already in Atlanta in pre-production. We shot in Georgia, and I hadn't chosen my lead yet. And everybody was like, you know, and so we had gone back and forth with, you know, a couple of actors, and I finally went to my casting directors. I was like, can you just put some people on tape? Like, let me see something, right? And so they did in LA. They were back in LA. They did that, and Robin was the first audition that I clicked on, and you know, it was like a movie moment in itself, because I was sitting there in the production office, and it was like buzzing, and everybody's kind of arguing or whatever, you know, it's late at night. And I'm watching this audition, and I literally started to like zoom in on the screen. I was like, who the fuck is this? It was the best audition I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I just was like, you know, I spent 2.5 years on that script, did 14 drafts. I lived with that character. You know, you are creating a character out of thin air. And then it's like you're meeting them for the first time. You're just like, there she is. There's Charlie, you know, and at that point in time, I think we even had an offer out, and I called the directors. I was a casting director. I was like, pull it. Like, we found her. Who is Robin Lively? I you know, I want to talk to her. And the next day I ended up, you know, chatting with her. You got to make sure they're not crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Like, Robin's in every single scene of that film. So, you know, we FaceTimed, and I said on that call, or I hung up, and then I called her right back. And I was like, look, I'm not supposed to, I don't think this is how this is supposed to go, but will you please take this role? Like, just, you have to play this role. And she accepted. And I think she was on a plane in a few days. And yeah, we started rehearsals, and it was, she is so insanely talented.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the reason that I'm so glad I wasn't aware of her work is that, again, like, I'd had such limited time with her. And Charlie is a butch lesbian, right? And Robin gets to rehearsals, and I meet Robin Lively, you know, she is the most feminine, like,
yeah,
her mannerisms are just, you know, she couldn't be more feminine. And then it was why I'd be on set, and I'd call action, and Charlie would, you know, she'd do this like brilliant work, and then I'd call cut, and she'd be like, okay, so like, you know, it was just like, what the hell? It was like Jekyll and Hyde, you know, you're just like,
yeah.
She's a chameleon. And man, that is so rare in this industry, because a lot of these actors are so talented, but they don't have that range. And she just does. She became she transformed to a different human being in front of my eyes. You know, it was amazing. And I joked with her. I'm like, I'm so glad I don't know that I would have been able to see it, you know, because you did such a transformation. And it was excellent. It was amazing working with her, and seeing an actor play somebody that you created so organically. I mean, it was just like effortless, you know, and it was great. Yeah.
Fantastic. And this was your first feature, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was my first go. And
how are your stress levels?
Sorry?
How are your stress levels right now?
Yeah, I'm good now. Yeah, I'm great. But yeah, it was very intense. It was a 27-day shooting schedule. You know, we had weather. We were shooting in the North Georgia mountains.
Beautiful.
And it nearly killed me, but it was also the best experience of my life. So I cannot complain. It was utter chaos, and I loved every second.
Yeah, it's that thing of going, while you're going through it, you're like, I'm never doing this again, and then afterwards you're like, actually, really, that was quite a thrill. I'll do it again.
Totally. You're just like, it's me.
Yeah.
I have a heart attack, but it'll be all right.
What do you think are the main challenges between making short films and feature films?
Oh man, the stakes are just so different. You know, it's just a different world. Like I said, short films, it feels like art. It feels like, not that the passion isn't any less. I mean, the passion is all there, but the pressure it's just a different world. And yeah, and a short film, again, there's only so many feet of film, but you've got a feature, there's so much responsibility, and to carry the story all the way through, and the tone, and you just have to be on point and prepared. I do not understand directors who just like walk onto set and they're like, all right, let's figure this out. You know, for me, the preparation is so key and so important. And yeah, it's just, I would say that it's just a different level of pressure and you know, expectation from those around you as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the LGBT plus community, because obviously you feature, obviously you are gay yourself, you feature LGBT characters as well. Do you feel that the representation is right at the moment, and how much more can we do to sort of properly represent our community?
Yeah, I feel very positive about representation right now. You know, I walked into a Barnes and Noble the other day, and there was a book, and it said "Boy meets boy, boy falls in love with boy," and I just started tearing up because I thought, my God, can you imagine being a little gay kid and seeing this?
Yeah, incredible.
When I was a kid, I was told that gay people were monsters who are going to burn in hell for all eternity. You know, it's just like the world has, we have grown in strides in terms of that. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to film and TV. And I feel very like amazing to see the world, see these kids who have positive coming out stories. That does not exist in my generation. We don't have those.
No,
Like,
no.
I don't know a single friend who where it was like a celebration when they came out. It was a, you are going to ruin your life. You know, it just wasn't, it wasn't what it is now. And so I think it's amazing. You know, I think for me, I really kind of want to see, and I think it's happening, but I really like the idea of not necessarily telling gay movies. Like, you know, I think gay films are great, right? When they're marketed to a specific, I think there is a want and a need for that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of just creating a commercial film that happens to have a gay character. You know, it's a character trait. It's not the entire focus of the film.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's what I try to do with Through the Glass Darkly. It's a psychological thriller. Charlie just happens to be gay. It's not the focus of the movie. Certainly, thematically, it comes into play, but it's not a gay movie. And I got that note from a very well-known agent that was like, "This isn't gay enough." And I'm like, "That's the point." You know,
Point, yeah.
Because I think that's when you're able to reach the broadest audience possible, you are able to affect the most change. And so, and it doesn't feel preachy, or they don't feel like ostracized by things they don't understand, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, it's in the progression, because you kind of have to introduce the gay storyline, and I think we've done that. And now we're seeing, like, isn't there a gay Marvel character, or, you know,
I'm not sure, to say the truth. Not sure.
I'm not really savvy on Marvel, but I do think that you know, in terms of like the commercial world, it's just been normalized, and that's really, to me, you know, what I like to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I completely understand, like, because donkeys years ago, I did a production, a theatre production, and I wanted to have disabled actors and able-bodied actors, because I wanted to push forward the movement of disabled actors and show that a disabled actor doesn't have to be cast in a disabled role. Primarily, they are an actor, and so let's use them as an actor. They just happen to be disabled. So I completely understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's the progression. It's happening.
Yeah.
I do worry that we're living in a time of censorship, and we're starting to do a little bit too much box checking, which feels very insincere, because it isn't organic. It's the financiers of the studios going like, you're going to need to add this, and that just doesn't feel honest. And so, you know, it happened in the 50s in cinema. Like, you saw this like pretty severe censorship, which is, you know, the word censorship, you wouldn't think that with like the stories that are gone, but it is, because it's starting to put the art the story in a box. And it's like, you need to check all of these boxes, and I worry about that a little bit. You know, but that to be said, you know, that's a champagne problem.
So is there anybody whose story that you would love to tell in film?
Yeah, you know, Dorothy Arzner. Are you familiar with Dorothy Arzner?
Who's that?
She was a director in like the golden age. So she started in silent films and worked up until, I think, she stopped making movies during World War II.
Okay.
But she's like this rad butch lesbian. She was the only female director in Hollywood during that time.
Really?
And she wore 3-piece suits to set.
Oh, amazing.
But she directed like Joan Crawford, Katharine Hepburn, like she did major films. And I think it would be so, I'm so, you know, I love the world, like old Hollywood. And
Same. Obsessed by it. Love it.
Yeah, I think that it'd be really fun, you know, in terms of like doing a biopic, it would totally be her.
Right. I used to manage a cinema in London's West End, and every Wednesday we would have what we called the Elderflowers afternoon. It was all the elderly people used to come, and they used to pay £1.75, and they'd get a free tea or coffee, and I would curate the afternoon for them with sort of silver screen films, because of course it's nostalgia to them. It's the films they grew up with, and I'd always do an introduction like over the microphone to them as well, and talk about little things that happened on the set and things like that, and they loved it. Unfortunately, the cinema changed hands, and we lost that afternoon, but it was such a magical time, and the amount that I learned about that period of time in cinema was incredible. And I mean, I'm a massive Gene Kelly and Ann Miller fan particularly, and and the knowledge. And we even on one afternoon I screened The African Queen, and we got a woman down called Angela Allen, who was the last living person that worked on The African Queen. And so she worked with Bogart and everything. And she said that Lauren Bacall used to come to set to watch the film, because obviously she's not in it, but she watched the filming, and she used to cook everyone's lunch for them so that when they finish filming, they can come and eat lunch. Lauren Bacall cooked everyone's lunch. And the story she used to tell. Then it turned out she lives like 2 doors down from like one of my best friends. So I said to her, do you know who you've got living 2 doors down from you? So she went and introduced herself, because she works in the business as well. But I thought this incredible woman, and she came and she stayed in the bar with everybody afterwards, and she was telling like stories of her evenings out with Clark Gable and things like this. And of course they were just like, wow, like she was incredible. Yeah, absolutely amazing woman. I ought to get in touch with her again actually, because I loved hearing her story. She was fantastic. Okay, so for anyone who's wanting to sort of carve out a career in direction in cinema and film, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them? Do you have any advice for them?
Arm yourself. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, don't do
it. I will say, this mentor of mine gave me some really good advice one time. He was like, when you're starting out, surround yourself with people who are smarter and more talented than you are.
Right.
Noted. So that, I think also too, if you really want to be a director and you want to be a good director, you have to understand story. You don't have to be an incredible writer, but you have to understand story and what makes good writing, you know, and the character arcs, structure. You need to be able to grasp that and to see it, because it's your job to convey that, and it's going to be on you to understand the story and why it works, you know, and what doesn't work. That is 100% on you when it comes time to shoot and when it comes time to edit. And so I think a lot of people are really drawn to like, oh, I want to do cool shots and cool visuals, and they do like working with actors in scenes, but the entire story is really, really what you need to have a strong hold on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got to be a good story to begin with. It's got to hold people's attention, because that's the basis of everything, is having that good script in your hands.
Yeah, you got to entertain them. That's part of it. You know, I think a lot of us like start out and we're like, oh, this is just, we get so enthralled by the nitty gritty, and it's you're like, oh, but this is boring. You know, like it's only intriguing to you because you're so immersed in whatever it is that you're writing. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's part of it. That's right. At the end of the day, it is a business. You know, it's and you have a job to do. So it's
100%, 100%. Yeah, I think sometimes people forget that actually, don't they? That it is a business, it's show business. And a friend of mine and I, that same friend who lives down the road from Angela Allen, actually, we often chat about when we were at drama school together, we never were taught how to be a business person in this business, because you are your own business as a self-employed person. You know, little things like how to do the tax properly, how to, you know, do the tax breaks, how to make the insurance right, all that kind of stuff you're never really taught. I don't know if you were taught that at USC, but we certainly weren't taught that in drama school. And only when we were flung out into the world and messing everything up did we actually understand how to get our heads around it a bit.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? You just have to dive in. Like, you know, when I graduated, USC is this, I mean, when I was there, they built the new film school, so it's bad, you know, and you're feel safe in your little bubble, and you go to set, and it's like you're going to work every day.
Yeah.
And then you graduate, and you're like, what the hell do I do now? You know, that nobody tells you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, carving your path and figuring out that journey, it's just like you just dive in and do it and figure it out, tip away. And again, the short films start small and get bigger, you know, and that might not be everybody's path, but that certainly works for me.
Well, I guess it also helps you to learn what kind of filmmaker you are as well, and where your interest lies, where your passion really lies, and where you'll do the best job, because that's your passion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what's next for you, Fash? What are you up to?
I'm in development on my second feature. I've been working with Blue Fox Entertainment, who are the guys who bought my first film.
Right.
And so I'm very excited about this project. It's a bigger project. It's a period piece.
Lovely.
During World War II in Europe. So yeah, I'm excited. I love Europe. I'm one of those, you love LA, I love Europe. So we'll trade. You can have, we'll house swap.
It'll be like the holiday.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's always been a dream of mine to shoot over there. And you know, this story is, I've kind of carried it with me since I was 18. And so it's been kind of churning for a long time. And yeah, so I'm very excited.
We're
also very impatient. Sorry?
Say that again, sorry?
I said I'm also very impatient, you know, because everything in my being, I just want to be on set. I'm like, you know, pining for that chaos.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the other thing too is I find that after you do your first film, you have to be careful about your next project, right? Like you don't want to just sign on to the first thing that's thrown at you. If it isn't good and it's not going to do you good as a storyteller and a filmmaker. And so it's taken a little bit longer than you know I wanted, if I'm being completely honest. But I do think that you just have to, you are in charge of your career and the films that you're going to put out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to spend years, which I that's my only experience. I mean, Through the Glass Darkly, it took me 7 years to get that film made and sold. Okay. So, you know, if you're going to do it, you've got to be just obsessively in love with the project. Yeah. So I'm excited. And also,
do you have an idea of whereabouts in Europe you want to shoot?
Yeah, it's in Germany.
Germany. Okay. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I've never been to Germany, so I don't know it that well.
I love it. It's great. You know, again, I'm a huge, when I was 18, I backpacked through Europe for 3.5 months, and we had a Euro pass. Back then you could like hop on the trains and go wherever you wanted. Yeah. And I love it over there, and Germany's great. It's where the story is centered. So it's very exciting.
I wish you the very best of luck with that. It sounds very exciting. Fash, thank you for joining me today. It's been really lovely to chat to you. And definitely next time I'm in LA, we must go out and say hello properly and have a coffee and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Gosh, of course, absolutely. Thanks, Fash. Take care.